Urban design is an aspect of city making that deals with the agencies, the processes, and the products of the physical design of cities. So physical design doesn't happen in its own right. There are a lot of other invisible factors and agents that influence urban design in the physical sense, but that's really what our focus largely is in practice. I use the word pluralism. I use it in two ways. The first is the pluralism of urban engagement. Cities are complicated entities, and to oversimplify the idea that I'm an architect, so I engage with it one way, I'm a planner, I engage with it another way, is really a myopic way of thinking of practice. We engage with cities in different ways, as politicians, as administrators. All your professors at this university are outstanding practitioners in their own right. They instigate incredible research in positions that people like myself constantly look to about how to better our practice in the outside world. We practice as researchers, we practice as thinkers, and we practice as urbanists. Practice is a multifaceted domain which has many different dimensions. The second idea of pluralism is the pluralism of urban geography. Cities are different across the world, not because of how they look, but because of the kind of governance mechanisms, the administrative engines, the cultural expectations that sustain them every day. So I want to conclude with 5 shifts for us to discuss and think about as we practice urban design or urbanism or city planning in various ways. We talk a lot about intentions. I have very good intentions, but I want to shift the discussion to who's receiving it. Because I may go with intentions to China or UAE, but I want to know who is listening to me, and I want to understand who that person is or entity is. Typically, as consultants, we go and we propose. And 90% of the time, the projects are so big that we don't have a chance to understand what has happened after we've left. So I want to shift the discussion to actually paying attention to that, particularly as we work globally. Personal biases. We all have personal biases about what's an ideal city. If I ask you, you will have something deep down. What is an ideal city? It's based on what you've seen, what you've experienced, what you've collected. But I want to shift the discussion to saying, okay, you may have a conception of an ideal city, but when you go to another place, there's a socio-cultural reality, there's a political process. There are things that won't happen, there'll be compromises. We need to take that into account. Urban design is not a high art in many of these cities, it's really high activism. It's really about being an activist. It's really about going and stirring the pot in a very diplomatic way by building bridges towards progressive ideas. Yes, we're all experts perhaps in a certain way, but as you go to these other paths, what you really need is empathy, I would argue. Empathy to really understand how these people speak so you can speak their own language, where they come from. We practice in many ways. We're all planners, urbanists, architects, but at the end of the day, we're all fighting the same battle. We all want to make cities better. Let's not turn our backs to each other. Let's not say, I'm a professor, you're an academic, or draw a line, or I write papers, which you only do projects. We all think, we all reflect, we're all fighting the same war. Let's talk to each other.